Mary dreamt of a world completely different from her own, and it felt like a second heartbeat. That world was South Korea. She loved their language, their food, and their culture. Her room in Lagos had K-pop posters, and she spent hours watching K-dramas and listening to Korean music. She even practiced speaking Korean, hoping that one day she would visit. One day everything changed. Mary got an acceptance letter from an exchange program. Because she was a top student, she was chosen to study in South Korea for 2 years. He couldn't believe it. Tears filled her eyes as she hugged her mother. "I'm so proud of you," her mother said, wiping her tears. "This is your dream and now it's real." A few days later, Mary and her mother went to the airport. It was hard to say goodbye, but her mother comforted her. "Make the most of this chance. Stay strong. We will always be here for you." With a mix of sadness and excitement, Mary got on the plane. When she arrived in Seoul, the cold air shocked her. It was so different from Nigeria. Her host family, Mr. and Mrs. Kong, welcomed her warmly. They had a son, June, who was her age. He was quiet but polite. "Welcome to Korea," June said in English, helping with her bags. Mary smiled. "Thank you." The Kang's house was cozy and her new room was nicely prepared. That night, lying in bed, she stared at the ceiling, realizing she was finally in Korea. The next day she started school. Everything felt new, different faces, a new language, and unfamiliar customs. Her classmates were curious about her, but not all were friendly. One boy, Taeho, sat next to her. He was popular but cold, barely looking at her. So Mary was determined. She was in the country she had always dreamed about, and nothing would ruin her time there. But she had no idea how difficult things would soon become. Mary's first week at school was harder than she thought. The language barrier made talking to people difficult. She understood Korean well, but speaking it fluently was another story. Some students were nice, but others, like Taeho, kept their distance. Taeho barely spoke to anyone, even though he was one of the most admired students in school. He was smart, athletic, and very good-looking. His silence made him mysterious, which only made people more interested in him. Mary found it annoying. "Good morning," she greeted him one day. He barely looked at her and mumbled something before walking away. She sighed. What is his problem? Mary tried to ignore him and focus on her studies. June, her host brother, helped her when she struggled. They weren't in the same class, but he often waited for her after school so they could walk home together. Then something unexpected happened. Their teacher paired Mary and Taeho for a group project. At first it was a mess. Taeho barely did anything, leaving all the work to Mary. He always seemed distracted. "Are you even going to help?" she asked him one afternoon, frustrated. Taeho looked up, surprised. "I will," he muttered. That night, during their project meeting, he finally spoke up. "I have a lot on my mind," he admitted. "My mom expects too much from me. Ever since my dad passed away, she wants me to be perfect. It's exhausting." Mary listened. For the first time, she saw past his cold attitude. He wasn't mean, he was just struggling. "Nobody is perfect, Taeho," she said softly. "You don't have to do everything alone." A small smile appeared on his face. "You're different," he said. "Most people don't talk to me like this." After that, things changed. Taeho started helping with the project. Little by little, he opened up. Mary saw a different side of him, someone who was actually kind. But not everyone liked their growing friendship. Myri, Taeho's ex-girlfriend, was one of the most popular girls in school. She was beautiful but mean, leading a group of girls who enjoyed bullying others. Now she had her eyes on Mary. "You think you're special?" Myri sneered one day, cornering Mary in the hallway. Taeho doesn't care about you. Stop embarrassing yourself. Mary clenched her fists, anger burning inside her. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Taeho walking past them. For a brief second their eyes met. But he did nothing. He didn't stop Mary. He didn't defend her. Mary felt humiliated. Taeho had seen everything, yet he walked away like he didn't care. The whole day she tried to ignore the heavy feeling in her chest. That evening, June noticed her silence at dinner. "Are you okay?" he asked. She forced a smile. "I'm fine." But she wasn't. The next day at school she couldn't hold it in anymore. When she saw Taeho in the hallway, she grabbed his arm and pulled him aside. "Why didn't you say anything yesterday?" she demanded. "You saw Myri bullying me and you just walked away." Taeho's face stayed blank. "It's not my problem," he said. Mary's eyes widened. "Not your problem? You don't think standing up for what's right matters?" Taeho sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "You don't understand. Myri isn't just some girl. It's complicated." "Complicated?" Mary scoffed. "No, Taeho. Simple. You just don't care." She turned and walked away, leaving him standing there. A few days later, their teacher announced a class trip to the beach. Everyone cheered except Mary. She didn't feel like spending the day with people who either ignored her or made her life harder. On the trip day, the school bus was filled with chatter. Taeho sat at the back, surrounded by girls who laughed at everything he said. Mary sighed and took a seat near the front, hoping to be left alone. Just then, a girl with brightly colored hair walked up to her. "Hi, can I sit here?" she asked with a smile. Mary's face brightened. "Sure, why not?" The girl introduced herself as Hannah, and within minutes they were laughing like old friends. "I've always been interested in Africa," Hannah said. "Tell me about Nigeria." Mary excitedly talked about her country, its food, culture, and traditions. "This is amazing," Hannah said. "I want to visit Nigeria someday." For the first time in weeks, Mary felt like she truly belonged. On the ride back, she and Hannah shared an earphone, listening to music together. But then Taeho suddenly appeared beside them. "Hannah, can I switch seats with you?" he asked. Hannah hesitated, then nodded. Now sitting next to Taeho, Mary crossed her arms and stared out the window, refusing to look at him. "Why are you so quiet?" Taeho asked. She ignored him. He leaned closer and pulled her earphone away. "I'm talking to you." Mary turned to him sharply. "What do you want me to say?" she snapped. "Why are you so confusing? One moment you're cold, the next you're nice." Taeho smirked. "Are you jealous?" Mary's breath caught. Before she could respond, Taeho leaned back, put on his headphones and closed his eyes like nothing had happened. Mary clenched her fists. This boy was impossible.